Hello, everyone. It is me, GamePang21, and today we're going to have another quick little double feature here. This video has kind of evolved into something different because I originally wanted to cover the CMA, defending their position, specifically Reforged Gaming, whining and complaining. But I think that today, I'm going to be covering a little bit of a double here because, well, quite honestly, I think it's just fun to do. So, today we're going to be looking at quick Harmon Smith Tears of the Kingdom Salt, and then we're going to go into the EU's decision and talk about specifically Reforged Gaming, because I think that would be a fun thing to do. Also, it's pretty early in the morning when I'm recording this, so yeah, trying to get videos out after recording videos for after 3 recorded videos last week is great. But in case you didn't catch it in the update video, I wanted to just thank you all so much for 500 plus subscribers right now. Y'all are great. Y'all are fantastic. Y'all are lovely. And I know that most of you have probably come here just for the shorts videos. Those probably aren't going to dry up anytime soon. I have at least another few weeks of those. I stay on top because I could literally die tomorrow and have another month of content running through this entire thing. But videos might slow down because I am just starting to lose hope in this. But we're going to keep trucking. Again, hopefully 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. So yeah, anyway, do all the things that YouTubers love to do. And let's get started on this video. First, we're going to start off with the Harmon Smith.
Hello everyone, this is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of I the Dragon, Cruel and Beautiful, Rabbit Hole, Lore and Fray, and the upcoming Jaw of the Dragon. So now that Tears of the Kingdom has been out for a couple of days, we can talk little bit about the narrative surrounding it, or more specifically, the narrative around the performance, because a lot of people really got it into their heads very early on, that the game did not look good, that it did not run well, and that there were all kinds of graphical glitches and errors and problems with the game. I'm not even talking about the quality of the game. I'm talking about how it performs, how well it does. The Switch is outdated, hardware that was used when the dinosaurs still walked the earth, right? It's old and tired. It's supposed to be retired. They're not supposed to be putting out cutting-edge games. It's simply not possible. Not only...
All right. So I don't see a problem with that. Quite honestly, the Switch is outdated hardware. It is doing this stuff, and it should probably have been retired a while back, if I'm being honest. Or at least some sort of mid-cycle refresh to make it better. And not the Switch OLED thing. That kind of didn't change anything other than the OLED screen, which... again, that's just my personal opinion, and I think that's a lot of other people's thing where it's yeah, this on paper it's awesome, it's cool, but it's tired and it's old, and they're still kind of doing it. They're just again, they're lagging behind. They really are. And it's not that that's a bad thing. It's just that, again, this was released in 2013, so I think these are 10 years old at this point, 10-year-old technology that was outdated when it came out. By the way, yeah, I'm one of the people who popularized that a little bit. But yeah, no, but it's not that they're releasing games is the worst part about this. It might be that people just don't think that they should be releasing games anymore for this. But at the same time, I don't see anything wrong with a lot of those arguments. But that's just me. I'm not a Nintendo fanboy.
Is Tears of the Kingdom better looking, more demanding, runs better than games on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, not the S, the X, and the most powerful gaming PCs on the market? It's just a better game overall. When you look down on it, I don't think I like Tears of the Kingdom nearly as much as Breath of the Wild. I think Breath of the Wild's pacing was better. You were exploring a brand new map. In a lot of ways, Tears of the Kingdom, it feels like you're retreading a lot of old ground. Now, it's very well made,
I will say though, no. I don't think that it's more graphically demanding than anything else. I'm fairly certain Minecraft is about the same graphics-wise at least in terms of demand. I think it might even be more demanding depending on how bad you mod it. But no, no, that's not a thing. Like, that doesn't make any sense as to why. What? Okay, so what? Please tell me, right? Why? Tears of the Kingdom is more graphically demanding and more intense than that. It requires a lot more power than the Switch can do. Because again, if the Switch is 10-year-old hardware and this is running at 30 FPS and stuff like that, right? Why is it that it can be run on a toaster, which is the equivalent of the actual thing of the Switch? If the Switch is the least powerful of the three main consoles that we have right now, why is it more graphically demanding and more intensely demanding than the highest end gaming PC, which can run the latest Call of Duty at 60 FPS, like, I don't know, 1080p, maybe 4K 60. I don't know if you can. Maybe that, but that's not the point. So it's more graphically demanding than 4K 60 and stuff like that. No. I also like how he immediately then starts to pivot and say that, oh, I don't like it as much as Breath of the Wild, because you're retreading old ground in this sequel. By the way, now it's playable DLC again. He's trying to defend the game here, right? And yet he's found a pretty major fault in the game, in which he didn't enjoy it as much. Seems a little bit. Okay, well, let's see where he goes.
But it reminds me a little bit of how I felt like, playing Majora's Mask for the first time, right? Like, it has all these radical changes, but it's still in the same engine. Like, it's still, things feel kind of off. Like, it doesn't feel fresh and new the way that, like, the previous entry did, right? There are legitimate complaints you can make about Tears of the Kingdom, but more and more, I'm seeing that the immediate knee-jerk reaction among the community, before the game even has time to come out, right? Before we even know anything about it, is that, like, it's completely broken, it's unplayable, it doesn't deserve an 8 out of 10. Like, it should be like a 6 out of 10. Like, right? I saw so many people, like, defending that 6 out of 10 score, which is, like, ludicrous. Like, the only reason I'm even, like, ribbing on Tears of the Kingdom at all is because, like, Breath of the Wild was one of the best games ever made. And Tears of the Kingdom is, like, if it's a 9 out of 10, if it's not.
That's more of your opinion, man. That's like your opinion that Breath of the Wild was the greatest game ever made. I mean, it was a solid game, 100%. I'm not dissing it at all. It's definitely of that year, I would say top 10. Like, solidly top 10, top 5 at the maximum. I think that there was a few more games that I would have personally put up, at least in that year specifically, that would have been better than it. But solid top 5, 100%. But to go back to the point that he made before, people complaining about the performance and stuff, I mean, it's less so because of the way that the actual thing was. But I will say this, at least it came out complete. I will be clear with Nintendo on this. At least it came out complete, and at least it came out in a state that was very playable. Because, quite honestly, given AAA gaming sphere today, fuck no. Because there's a lot of just Jesus Christ. It's not good to have something like that. It is just, oh boy. But yeah, I will agree that it was a pretty solid game, and that to follow up Breath of the Wild is a hard sell, on paper at least. But they followed up well, and I think that it's a really good, solid game. I'm agreeing with you on that. I'm not agreeing that it's the greatest game ever, and that you're ribbing on it because you found fault in the game, but you still enjoyed it. And it's like, I can agree on some of the points that you've made in this video, but that doesn't mean that your logic isn't completely flawed in such a way that is deeply, deeply hilarious to me.
It's slightly not as good as one of the best games ever made. The best game ever made. Breath of the Wild tops like the greatest games of all time list now, right? Tears of the Kingdom was never going to compete with that. It was always going to be a tough sell. I was iffy on the game from the onset because of this. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? I'm not a blind consumer. I'm not constantly going, saying that, the new Zelda game is going to be better than the last. Just like I didn't say that Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword were better than Ocarina, because, Ocarina was clearly the genre-defining masterpiece that established the video game conventions for decades to come. So much so that even, today, Elden Ring rips it off. But, now...
Huh? Are you fucking me in the ass right now? What? How? What? How did we get to this point? Legitimately, how did we get to this point? His point here went from saying that this game is good to the point of it being fun and stuff, but he somehow says that Ocarina defined stuff for generations? I mean, I wouldn't go that far. I'd say that it redefined Zelda games for generations, absolutely. But I don't think that it redefined the whole gaming industry for a lot of things. But I do agree. But again, it is a little bit of a tough sell in terms of Breath of the Wild versus Tears of the Kingdom. Because again, like you said, Tears of the Kingdom didn't do all that much different. Technically. But it's still a really good game. I know I'm half defending, half just doing this point. But to attack his point specifically, I agree that it wasn't as good as Breath of the Wild. More or less. I haven't really played it, but from what I've seen, it's not as good. But again, it's the sequel to the game. It's kind of the same argument that I would use with God of War and God of War Ragnarok when those two games were kind of being compared and talked about. God of War was amazing. It was fantastic. It was really good and really well defined in the genre that it was presenting itself in. God of War Ragnarok just continued that with extra stuff on top. And it was given the same score, and people were like, oh, it should have been more. It's like, no. It's the sequel to a very, 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 very solid foundational game that came before it. It was just finishing the house that was built onto that foundation. It's the same thing here. The only difference between that and Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask is that Majora's Mask was not the sequel. It wasn't a sequel to anything. It was standing on its own. It just utilized the same game engine. And I think that it's in and of itself is a very controversial point talking about Majora's Mask and stuff, but it is just... Oh boy. All right, let's finish out this video so we can get...
Today, we're seeing a lot of people, just... It feels like Tears of the Kingdom was not given a fair shake.
Okay, hold on. What the fuck? Okay, I know I said we would get through this video, but what the fuck was that point? It's like, oh, even Elden Ring is ripping off Ocarina of Time. Are you fucking serious? What the hell? What? Because Elden Ring is an open world game and has a lot of really solid and in-depth mechanics and stuff that makes it a rip-off of Ocarina? What the open world games existed before that. You could technically speaking say that Zelda ripped off GTA 3 Jesus Christ. fly-by-point, but gee, what the fuck?
Right from the onset, there was a very real agenda against this, trying to downplay this game, trying to pretend Nintendo was going out of business, was going third party, that this would be the last major game on Switch, which we already know is not the case. Like, there were so many, like, weird agendas being pushed against Tears of the Kingdom. It is almost impossible to take them seriously. And among them, most blatantly, is the fact that the game does, in fact, run, look, and play better than any of its competition.
Oh my god. All right. Well, I will say this. It does run, look, and play better than Redfall. I will say that. However, then its entire competition, no. Just straight up, no. 30 FPS, 1080p on, or maybe even 720p on the Switch. That game, were it not for the restraints of the Switch, probably would have been amazing. Like, absolutely fantastically amazing on any other platform. And we know this because the people have been emulating it on their other hardware, and it's been running far, 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 far superior on all other hardware. Same thing with Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild was cracked and you know, ROMmed and whatever in that context, and it was just fantastic. But it's like I can half agree with him because, again, at least the game came out in a completed state that actually worked well. And again, I haven't seen many people defending the specific point of it being just a bad game. Most of the time when I see people talking about it, they say, oh yeah, it's a good game. It's very good. It's feature complete and it's nice. And the only people who I think that are contrary and being bad about it are the people that are like the fanboys and stuff. And it is just so dumb. But anyway, I think to round out this video, we're going to quickly talk about Reforged Gaming and his EU CMA meltdown breakdown on stream. So yeah, this is probably going to take up very little time, so let's continue on with that.
With the console gaming services, they have a console. They have plans to make another console, according to the CMA's findings, and they're down here too. They have their own cloud gaming services. They're actively competing with everybody down here on the bottom while actively trying to buy up large portions of the market, and that's just omitted from this infographic.
No. That's not omitted from the infographic. If you read and you look, they make it very clear that Microsoft is playing on both fronts. That's why there's two arrows that leave the Activision Blizzard gaming sphere. That is just full stop. So, because they have and make game consoles, and they have plans to make more gaming consoles, right? That doesn't make them eligible to compete on multiple different levels of the gaming market. Like, what's your point here? In saying that Microsoft isn't competing because they're trying to buy up large portions of the gaming market, that's not them competing how exactly? Like that doesn't make any sense. If you buy something business to business, does that not mean that you are trying to compete in that space and trying to expand your space portion? Like, that to me just makes the most sense. I don't know. But no, they are. It clearly shows that they're competing on the cloud gaming level as well as the regular console gaming level. Clearly what it shows.
They look like a publisher on this infographic. And if they were a publisher, none of this would matter. The fact of the matter is, it's not a publisher buying more property to distribute to more places. It is a platform that's trying to buy property to leverage it against the competition. Holding them this much.
Okay, so but like, doesn't Sony do the same thing, though? And far worse, mind you, by saying that because Microsoft, we'll use your logic against you, Mr. Reforge. So because Microsoft has a console, because Microsoft has plans to continue to make consoles, because Microsoft has a lot of money, because Microsoft has a lot of studios and things they've bought, and they have a lot of competition in a specific space, and they're trying to apparently leverage the competition, even though that's not seemingly true, because they're actually offering free licenses and contracts to people for the next 10 years for Call of Duty and all Activision games. Do you think that if Sony, right, again, Sony had the kind of fucking money that Microsoft had, you don't think that they would be the ones that would be trying to do this exact same thing, and that they would get no scrutiny for it? Like, I don't think Sony would have had any problem getting Activision if they could afford them, but they obviously can't, because it's like nearly $69 billion with a B dollars to actually buy them out. And Sony and Microsoft isn't a publisher. Why? Because they just don't put their names on everything, even though they do? Like, Microsoft has first-party games that are not available on Sony consoles. Microsoft has games that they have under their belt, under their brand name of Microsoft Studios, right? That's like a publishing company of Microsoft for those games. Like, what? Huh? I'm so confused as to what your point is. So Microsoft isn't a publisher because they are a platform? Sony's the exact same way. Like, and they're worse, because they don't just buy the studio, they buy the game contracts, and that's it. They buy the talent. So, again, when Microsoft does it and tries to buy game devs, it's bad. And it's upsetting. And it's gross. And it shouldn't be done, because it's creating a monopoly. But when Sony does the exact same thing, buying out studios, right, and even further limiting their competition by not putting it on literally any of their other competition stuff, that means that they're better in the consumer space. I don't know. I don't fucking get it. I don't get it. I just don't. I never get either of these two people's points, especially with this one with Reforged Gaming, because it makes no sense. It makes no sense. Sony does the exact same thing. And again, it's worse with Sony, because they oftentimes don't even have to buy out the entire studio. They just have to buy out the one or two games that they can afford. So when Microsoft comes down and is like, "All right, you want to compete in that context? We'll compete in that context," and then goes and does this whole thing that makes them bad. I don't know. It's stupid. It's a stupid, dumb, absolutely gross, disgusting, stupid point. It just makes no sense. Anyway, I think I've talked your ear off enough for today. Both of these fanboys are absolutely just incoherently rambling into a microphone, kind of like what I'm doing. Anyway, my name is GamePenguin21. Don't be a fanboy, please. And a peace. Off.